Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UCLA Media. This is David Torres, your host, and you're on An Hour with Dave. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It's another Monday, a beautiful Monday here, and people are complaining because of a little bit of rain and snow, but it's a beautiful Monday. And while we're getting ready to start, and before I introduce you to a very good friend of mine's, a man that I personally look up to, a man that he's out there, G.T. Thompson. Before that, I want you to remember that An Hour with Dave is a freestyle show, and anything, comments from me or any of my guests are strictly mine's and mine's only, not useful media. So again, if you hate me, you hate me. If you love me, you love me. It's okay either way around, but my show is free. Welcome, Congressman G.T. Thompson. How are you?
Good, David. Count me among those who love you. Be on An Hour with Dave, and then I understand kind of a brand new studio setup. So thanks for allowing me to be the first here to be able to help break this studio in, and thanks for just being a great friend. I really appreciate our relationship, the work that we've done together, and very proud. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to UCLA Media too for making this possible.
Appreciate it, and I want all my people that are listening to us that Congressman Thompson is very involved in what's happening, and even though he's not in the city, he's involved in anything that's got to do with helping everyone. He's never turned his back. I've met this gentleman, and ever since I met him, he was always there to help me. And every step of the way, he's always answered the phone. Great person. Congressman, I am so glad that you're here. Tell everybody how long you've been here, how long you've been working, where your territory's at, what's going on.
Well, David, absolutely. I've been service member of the Pennsylvania delegation of the United States House of Representatives. I've actually been on that job for 7 terms. It's hard to believe, but it's been 13 years. And although my district, I do represent 14 counties. It's the Pennsylvania 15th congressional district. It's more, it's huge actually. It's 24% of the landmass of Pennsylvania. My home happens to be in Center County, but it goes to the New York line and almost reaches over to Pittsburgh. But that said, I'm a proud Temple graduate. So I'm obviously it was spent time and love the city of Philadelphia and the surrounding area around Philadelphia. And so so I guess I've got a perspective, kind of the whole Keystone State, and certainly our southeastern Pennsylvania area, the city of Philadelphia. All of it's near and dear to my heart.
Well, and I got to tell you, he's not afraid. He came down when I was in my campaign. He came down. He's not afraid of walking the streets. You ask him to come, he shows up. There's no fear. He doesn't hide behind his office and his desk. I've been there. I've been to your personal home. And your area, when you had people out there, you have farmers that work a lot in your area too, right?
Oh yeah, agriculture is real important. You know, I was honored with at the end of 2020, beginning of the 2021, I was elected by my peers as a Republican leader or the ranking member on the U.S. House Agriculture Committee. You know, we haven't had a Pennsylvania member of Congress, I'm told, in well over 100 years that's been a leader on agriculture. And here's the important thing about that. You know, agriculture is our number one industry. And so, you know, you know, 1 out of every 7 jobs in Pennsylvania is directly or indirectly related to agriculture. And what's even more important is the fact that, you know, every Pennsylvanian, every Pennsylvania family needs access to good, high quality, affordable, and safe food. And so, and that's an important role of the Agriculture Committee. And the Agriculture Committee goes more beyond more than that. Obviously, we're about you know, the rural economy. Yeah, it's an important part. And obviously, when one part of Pennsylvania or America, say the rural part does well, the you know, the urban and suburban areas do as well. It's important that all that we do our best to serve the needs of all Pennsylvanians and quite frankly all Americans. And the Agriculture Committee is a big part of that. I shared that uh, one of my proud to be a Temple Owl graduate, but I'm also a Penn State Nittany Lion. And Penn State is a land grant university, and Penn State has somewhat of a presence in all of our counties through extension services or branch campuses. They are a land grant university. They're only made possible and authorized because of the House Agriculture or because of the Agriculture Committee and the Farm Bill process. But we're just involved in so much. We're actually one of the proven solutions, climate solutions that are out there. We got to do a better job talking about that, but quite frankly, the practices of if agriculture is science and technology, and the amount of carbon that we take out of the air through our agriculture practices, and we've been doing this for well over a decade. It's the metric tons. It is amazing, and we're talking gigatons. I'm not even sure what a gigaton is, but it's a lot, right? I mean, I have the data on that shows what good agriculture practices that we, that we have been, things that I've worked on and how well that's successful, to having two things, David. It would be a healthy environment, but quite frankly, a healthy economy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I'm going to tell you, because even this Saturday, you're aware of it, that I give out food as much as I can to the community. I don't ask what political party they're with. I don't ask what political party you're with or what affiliation you are. I just try hard to make sure as many families get as much as they can. And this Saturday alone, I gave out probably 200 something boxes of food, because there's so many people in need. And I explained to them that, the farms are so important to us, because people don't realize that, any food that you're getting down here somewhere along the line, a farmer has touched. And that's important to us. And I gave it out, and I try to give it out about once a month. Is what I usually try to do. I wish I could do more, but it's so difficult. And I'm going to try to come up with some programs to try to keep feeding as much families as I can, because wow, the inner cities here are really hurting.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about you, that shared passion you have for helping our neighbors in need. I do the same kinds of things. I mean, faith is pretty important to me, and that's what that's basically the scripture tells us that we're supposed to do that. That we have a part of it as individuals. We have a role of making sure that we're helping our neighbors in need, making sure they have access to the nutrition that they're required. That's all those nutrition supports, all that food that you have done a great job of making sure is distributed and available. A lot of those programs are authorized and supported through the Farm Bill. In fact, I had the privilege in the last, I guess it'd be 3 years ago now, to be the chair of the subcommittee on agriculture. And so the programs, the supplemental nutritional assistance programs that are so important, that the support, the additional support that we've seen during this COVID-19, which has really compounded, food insecurity for many of our families. All that was made available under the jurisdiction of the programs that I was responsible for in terms of the House of Representatives, the Agriculture Committee. It's just the TFAP, which is assistance to our food banks and pantries, and it's a wonderful program, isn't it? Because it takes folks who volunteer like yourself and all those volunteers at food banks and food pantries, food distributions, to make that work, to make sure that nobody goes hungry, that everybody has access to the nutrition that they require. That's important, but you're absolutely right. We couldn't do that without the hardworking farm families who produce that food.
Yeah, well, and sometimes, and that's why I remind the people when I'm giving out the food that remember, there's a lot of people involved in this box of food getting down here to you. And first and foremost, we should all pray and thank the farmers
Yeah,
for
yeah.
for their work, because they're and the farmers actually sometimes go through so many changes just to help somebody, because I mean, government changes and rules and regulations and land and what they can grow, and it's never easy. Farmers here don't have an easy task.
No, they don't, and they struggle. I mean, they challenging. You had mentioned dairy. I mean, ever since uh, the federal government, without my support, I fought this back in 2009, 2010, and they took milk fat out of our kids' milk that they get access to in school. Well, they basically have robbed them of two things. One is nutrition, because all the nutrition's in that basically 3.5% of milk fat is it within that whole milk has. And so we've really been cheating our kids on nutrition.
Mhm.
And at the same time, that's made it very difficult because for the most part, fat free and and low fat milk doesn't taste near as good as what um, you know uh, you know whole milk does. Whole milk is
Yeah.
only 3.5% milk fat, but it makes all the difference in terms of taste and nutrition. So those dairy farmers have been struggling. We've lost so many of them here in Pennsylvania and certainly across the country. But it's a lot of these farmers, especially if they have livestock like that, they're working 7 days a week, and it's
Oh,
not an 8-hour job. They, if a piece of equipment or one of their livestock has problems, they're working around the clock. So I love that fact. I mean, we got to remind everybody when you're sitting down to your meal, no matter what it is, when you offer your blessings, say a special blessing for our farm families.
I agree. I agree. And what's happening now, and I know with the pandemic, it's got to affect them a lot. What's happening in Washington? Are we going to be expecting to get them some additional help? Anything going
Yeah,
on with them?
yeah, we did. We passed, I believe it was December 20th or 21st. We passed the most recent round of assistance for everybody. President Trump signed that into law on December 27th. And so most of that, and there's about $1 trillion that the administration has. President Trump had it. Now President Biden has it. Of monies that hasn't been spent yet to help everybody. Now, that's not all for farmers. Farmers get a very small part of that. A little frustrating right now. The farmer assistant, it was in a program called CFAP, which is Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. And
Right.
CFAP also deals with the extra nutrition that we've been providing. But so it was support for families who are struggling to put food on the table, but it was also, which is just as important, the support for our farmers to make sure that they're still farming so that they can make sure we have food access and food security. We've done 2 rounds of CFAP, and they both went really well in 2020. It got better as time went on because we'd never really faced a pandemic like this in our lifetime before. And the CFAP 3 that was in the December bill, unfortunately, right now, the Biden administration kind of put a pause on it. Now, I talked last week with incoming Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack. He'll probably be confirmed this week. I worked with Secretary Vilsack, former governor of Iowa. I worked with Secretary Vilsack for 8 years under the Barack Obama administration. And, we get along well. There's some things we don't agree upon. But many things that we do, and we care about making sure that people have access to high quality, safe, and affordable food, and we care about food security. We care about our farmers and ranchers. So I expressed concern to him that the Biden administration had really froze these monies, and our farmers need them now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been struggling. The disruption in the food supply chain, all things that we need to correct. And I think he gave me some assurances that's among his top priorities. He gets confirmed. He has the right people in place. He's going to get that money out the door. He made that promise to me, and I'll be honest with you, David. I'm going to hold his feet to the fire that he does that. So,
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that I'm really concerned, because I've seen and working and distributing and trying to get the food, and I'm just a little peon when it comes to all the process that you guys have to go through. But make sure I get what I can to give to the people. But I'm really hoping that this new administration sees the value of and the necessity to help the farmers, because I've been paying attention throughout the years how much they've been cutting back on them, how much the help is not there for them, and we're losing, and we can't keep losing ground to everyone else but our farmers. I mean, how's their labor coming out? Are they having problems with labor?
Yeah, they are. They struggle with that. I mean, and it's not that they're not good paying jobs; they're just hard jobs. Um, they're challenging. You're working all kinds of weather. It's pretty intense work. And it's not just our farmers. I spent a fair amount of time with the number one area for mushrooms in the world, and that's down in southeastern Pennsylvania, the mushroom capital of the world. And I spent a lot of time with those producers. I talked with their workforce. They pay good money, but it's challenging. It's the same thing if you're milking cows or growing row crops or whatever it might be when it comes to agriculture. So workforce is an issue that we're going to need to work. This morning, I was on a call with a member from Washington State who has the same concerns. And so I promised I'm going to be working with him, see what we can do about making sure that our farmers and ranchers, our processors, not just the farmers and ranchers, are producers of agriculture. Our processors are obviously the folks that take those commodities and prepare them to go into the markets. My promise is to work on that issue as well, workforce.
Well, and I'm trying to get in the inner city now. I'm trying to get kids to realize, because it's in their mind, they think of a farmer, they think of somebody that has a couple chickens and a cow, and they don't really see what a farmer has, or what it takes. And farming is an incredible field if you got into it, agriculture, and I think it's beautiful when you think about taking a piece of land and growing acres and acres of corn, and what this corn is going to be. How many different products come out of corn, how many different products come out of it's amazing. But I don't think the inner city sees it.
Yeah, well, you know what, and there's opportunities in the inner city. One of the best, I think, agriculture-focused high schools in the country is in Philadelphia, Saul High School. I can tell you they have, from a Pennsylvania perspective, they have the largest FFA membership. Our youth that are interested in agriculture in the state of Pennsylvania, right in Philadelphia. And it's a great story because these kids, once they get exposed to it, I mean, there's some of them I understand you have to change buses several times in order to get to school. So we do have some great examples right in Philadelphia, and quite frankly, not that far away as well, outside the city, to be able to get that exposure.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to get people to understand, and I'm hoping that Washington, how are we looking at time? Hoping that Washington is going to pay attention across the country to what's happening with the farmers, especially with this pandemic, especially with the food demand. They're struggling, they're working hard, and so somebody has to ring the bell and say, we all need to say thank you and appreciate it, and make sure that everyone, Congress, Senate, and in Washington understands that we need them farmers, and we need them to be appreciated, and we need them to be respected for what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's more than just access to food and fibers. I mentioned briefly before, it's making sure that it's contributing towards having the strongest possible economy for Pennsylvania with Pennsylvania agriculture, and we're a very large agriculture state, but all across this country. And then the other issues that come with it, that it is the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Agriculture Committee. We work on the digital divide through the Rural Utility Service. That's one of two federal agencies that deal with connectivity and work to make sure that we because after this pandemic, everyone knows how important connectivity is, whether it's been for education, whether it's been for healthcare, whether it's been able to go to work or maybe create your own business, to be an entrepreneur. But it's also about precision agriculture. Because agriculture has always been science and technology. Now, granted, it was probably pretty rudimentary and crude to start with, but farmers were persistent, trial and error to figure out what the best way to plant their crops. And today, the level of science and technology that we use, that's why we know that one of the best conservative climate solutions, is quite frankly land use and agriculture. Whether it's forestry, proper forest management, which means you are cutting some trees down. You have multiple generation of trees. Those forests become the largest carbon sinks in the world. Or whether it's precision agriculture with applying with technology just the fertilizer that you need where you need it, so it doesn't evaporate into the air or run off. Whether it's pasturing with livestock, because actually that livestock is stimulating root growth when they're walking around in those pastures. And the longer the roots, the more carbon is sequestered out of the air. It's all pretty exciting, actually. That land use approaches, those agriculture, and it's all agricultural because trees are a crop. Forestry is under the agriculture committee. We actually offset for those land uses all carbon emissions with what our farmers and ranchers and foresters do. And I think it was in 2017, I believe, don't hold me to the date, but it was fairly recently, they found that there were also, it was a net carbon sink is what they called it, which means it absorbs more emissions what it provides, and it absorbs 11.1% more emissions. It can offset for traffic, for energy production.
Wow.
And so it's the folks that are involved in agriculture really are what I call the climate solution champions.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, even now I'm learning so much because I've had so much respect for it. And you remember when I went to your house and actually smelt the real way grass actually was supposed to smell. And I remember saying to you, well, this is what actually grass is supposed to smell like. Never mind what it smells like in the inner city. But you have it's a great deal that we have to do. We're going to take a 30-second break. And when we come back from 30-second break, we're going to talk to Congressman Thompson again and see how he sees how much farms we've lost and where it's going with the more support that whatever we can do to help him and help his cause. We're going to take a 30-minute break, and everybody will be right back.
Sounds good.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UCLA Media. This is David Torres, your host, and you're on An Hour with Dave. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. And again, we're with a very good friend of mine, and with Congressman G.T. Thompson, and he's a great friend. We've been talking about agriculture, the farmers, and everything that's involved. And we're going to get into this conversation because I know an hour is not enough time, but I'm sure that everybody's interested because we've been announcing his presence here on the station, and he is our first guest on An Hour with Dave with the new studio. And it's such a pleasure to have my good friend here. Congressman, how are you again?
I'm doing great. Great to be, like I said, David, thank you for the opportunity to be on here. Proud to be the first in this studio. I know that helping to work the bugs out of the system too,
it's always when it starts out new, but I tell you, hey, we got an engineer named Ramos here. He's an incredible young man, does incredible work, and just to see what he's done alone, it amazes me because I'm an old guy. You know, you could have left me with a flip phone and I would have been just as happy. Because
I can tell already, having got a chance to meet virtually, you got a great engineer and a great producer. And so I'm just proud to be on the show with you.
yeah, I appreciate it. So tell me what we've lost farmland, right? Farmers
We
in the
have, and
United
that's,
States, right?
yeah, no, we certainly have in Pennsylvania as well. We've, the number of dairy farms in particular that we've lost, and and because it's been a struggle. I mean, farmers have to deal with not just the workforce issues you talked about, but even more so, they have to deal with regulations, which I think have been overzealous. You know, punitive regulations. Is not that farmers don't care about the environment. Quite frankly, they've been the best at protecting the environment. Um, Sometimes government at state level and federal level both, and I imagine local, doesn't really give our farmers and ranchers credit for the things that they do voluntarily. And I always believe that the voluntary approach is the best approach because we get far more done that way. When we approach it just with a punitive approach, we don't get the outcomes, and quite frankly, we lose the farms. And once you lose a farm, it goes to another use, and it's so unlikely that we'll get it back. So farmers have to deal with an awful lot, and that's a huge threat. I mean, you do not want to be dependent on another country for your food supply. I have visited a few of those nations where they have food insecurity, and there are places that predominantly I see, first of all, hunger, poverty, illiteracy. I see childbirth mortality without proper nutrition. And quite frankly, I see, I see terrorism, I see chaos, I see violence, when you have food insecurity. And we've been blessed as a nation. God's been good. But if we're not careful, without the right policies, we ought to be growing our farms. I tell you, technology's been great in science. Our farmers today are 287% more productive than 40 years ago.
Wow.
On the same acre of ground, 287%. And that's just amazing. And it speaks to the fact that agriculture is science and technology, because we have lost an awful lot of acreage, a lot of production. But we're still meeting our needs at this point, and we're meeting the needs of a lot of people outside this country with our exports, our foreign aid that we give in the form of food and commodities. But you know what, we can't stay on this trajectory of losing farms. It just, because at some point we will hit a tipping point, and then we will see and experience as a nation what food insecurity feels like.
Is there any programs coming up or anything that's happening in Washington to try to get these farms back, get us back on track?
Yeah, constantly. The Agriculture Committee, that is certainly a commitment that we have. My vision for the Agriculture Committee, serving as the Republican leader or what's called a ranking member, is to restore a robust rural economy. And we do that by making sure that our farm families, ranch families are successful at the end of the day, for working the hours and the days that they earn a decent living, a good living, because of what they provide this nation in terms of food and fiber. And then my other goal is obviously, especially in rural America, in Pennsylvania, is beginning to rebuild, to regrow our population. That'll make Pennsylvania stronger if we're able to do that. And so, and a big part of this is making sure that we're doing the right policies that are not punitive, but are collaborative. It's like, I work very hard to all the things you were talking about, just how important it is to thank our farmers and to recognize that food really doesn't come from that convenience store or that grocery store. Or even at food bank or pantry, and I love the volunteers that make that happen, like yourself. But that food originated somewhere on a farm that people had that worked so hard to do. So I like to remind people of that. I like to remind people of things like the that quite frankly, agriculture, the people who work in agriculture really have the only successful climate solutions, because of how they do their work by and large. And there's a lot of good things to lift up, but we have to attend to that. I will say that the past two farm bills I've worked on, and those are rather large bills that span 5 years. I've worked on two of them so far, one in 2014, one in 2018. They've been some of the probably the better farm bills we've ever done. They certainly have been considered. The 2018 farm bill was considered one of the greenest farm bills in our country's history.
Well, I mean, you know what? And I know that this sounds selfish because I tell people all the time, I love being part of America. The United States to me is the most important and greatest country you could ever live in. Obviously, to me, I'm kind of selfish because I was born here, and I'm free. But I kind of see that we've taken a second step where we're not paying attention sometimes to our own, like farmers, like people who are hungry, behind on our education. I just feel that we can do so much more helping others if we first take care of home. Because if we took care of our farmers, with all that we give away, if we took good care of our farmers, we could do even more once we take care of home for outside.
Well, some of those programs, including the nutrition programs that you and I volunteer with, are good for our farmers because that is, it's the federal government that buys a lot of those excess commodities. Especially in a time of COVID when there was a disruption of food supply chain, that was really helpful for our farmers to be able to have a market. I was shocked by this number. Somewhere close to 60% of all meals before this coronavirus were eaten at restaurants. Wow, now that just blew me away. And because of that, it really created a disruption when the restaurants were all shut down. I mean, that had an awful effect on our farmers. And so part of what we had to do is food had to get repackaged so that families could buy their food in the grocery stores. And farmers struggled because of the loss of selling to schools and universities, restaurants. And so the nutrition programs helped obviously hungry families, but it also helped our farmers too, because they were able to, the federal government through the CARES program or package, the COVID relief package, they were able to, they bought excess commodities and that included dairy and meat and fruits and vegetables. And they distributed that through volunteer work and food pantries and food banks all across the country.
It's just incredible. And I want to thank you and I want to make sure that I thank, and I know I'm harping on it, thanking the farmers, because to me, it's amazing. I mean, I think I'm the greatest thing out there when I grow a tomato plant out in my backyard, and to me, that's a big thing. But again, I'm from the South Bronx. So, and then in North Philadelphia, the Badlands. So if I had managed to grow some tomatoes and corn, I've done a big thing to me. But just in thinking of everything that's involved with you and your support that you give to the farmers and how you make sure that Pennsylvania is getting all it can get. If I could ever use my radio station and my show to promote anything you need, I would back you 100%.
That sounds, David. I appreciate that because I think that's a message. We need all Pennsylvanians, all Americans to, have a real appreciation for where their food comes from and all the different factors that go into that. So that's greatly appreciated.
Do we have a Farmers Appreciation Day out there? Maybe we can get pass a holiday for Farmers Appreciation Week or a month. We got months for all kinds of stuff.
We do. I'm off the top of my head. I don't know. I'll have to check.
Maybe that's something you could introduce to the floor and say, can we get a Farmers Appreciation Month?
I can certainly do that. I just encourage everybody to, if, when they're going to eat, thank a farmer every day. Show some appreciation, lift them up in if you pause and lower your head and pause and say a few words to the Creator, uh, the God Almighty, whenever you're asked
Yeah.
blessings over your food. Throw a special prayer in there for those hardworking farm families.
Yeah, I think so, and I would love to see Farmers Appreciation Day or Farmers Appreciation Week or month or however we want to do it, because I think that and maybe get some of the local schools to have tours and learn and see with their own eyes what I've seen in traveling. Here, go to the college here, and maybe take trips up to the farms and see, because I'm telling you, a lot of kids don't know it. They don't see it. They don't. I've
Yeah.
talked to kids who have graduated here, high school, and they've never been to a farm. They have
No,
no clue.
it's one of the issues we have. We're too many generations removed from the farm. That's why I'm so proud of high school programs like Saul and the FFA program, and that are in Philadelphia proper. And but you're right. I mean, we ought to take every opportunity to kind of reconnect with those folks who provide us with the food and the fiber that we need.
Yeah, and I think that would go a long way for somebody in the fourth grade, fifth grade, and even on up, and they go out and they meet the farmers and walk around and see cows and see chicken farms and and vegetables and corn farm, and maybe even bring a tomato plant home or something, and but it would make a difference for a child to see it, because
Yeah.
nobody ever sees it. You don't really see it to appreciate it, and sometimes I think that we kind of lost touch. Like when you think of a farmer, none of these kids think of a farmer like I do,
Yeah.
or like you would, to appreciate them. And I think that's a big piece, that if we could get involved somehow and get school trips when they're open now, and church trips, and go up and see what's going on and visit the farms, and maybe get your hands dirty a little bit and see what's going on, you know?
Yeah, no, I like the way you think. It's a great idea. There's a great agriculture college not too far. Not, I think it's a relatively easy drive from Philadelphia, Delaware Valley, which I believe is in Bucks County, and it's a great agriculture school. They got an amazing farmers market there, but they've great faculty. I mean, and certainly I would think that there'd be a lot of farmers who would welcome groups of students out to their farms within quite frankly, within a reasonable distance of the city of Philadelphia.
Well, it's a reasonable distance, but I enjoyed when I took the trip up to your house. I enjoyed it when I went up and met the people out there, because they were, I got to tell you, I left there feeling well, feeling loved, understanding. There was no, that everybody was so kind and so open and so, and everywhere you looked, you seen things growing in nature, and you just don't have that in the inner cities. It just doesn't happen,
Yeah.
you know. And I have a friend of mine who is the community relations person at community college, and this summer I want to start getting kids into college too. But there's kids that can learn that there is other means of learning. Maybe there might be one or two kids who become a scientist and invent a better soil that'll produce more food. We don't know, but we got to pique their interest. And the only way to pique their interest is to, I believe, to take them when they're young, and open their minds up and open their eyes up to see, wow, look at this. Look how far the vast the land is and what we're doing. And I think that would make a big difference personally.
I think it does too, and I think it's important to kids get exposed to various opportunities. Agriculture education kind of mostly fits into the area of career and technical education. That's something I've also led the nation on. In 2018, I believe it was 18, we were was with or 2019, maybe 2018, 2019. I was with the president in the Oval Office. He signed into law the piece of legislation that was mine. It was modernizing career and technical education for the 21st Century Act. And as a part of that is agriculture education. But, that bill did a lot of things to empower career and technical education, which is good for people of all ages, just not our kids. But one of the big changes we made early for the younger generation is we now, as a result of that, we now try to encourage awareness of career and technical education pathways and jobs in the middle schools. So when they're younger, even long before senior high or junior high, and so we've it is important to give kids an opportunity to see what's possible. What are the opportunities out there, and what are the different pathways to get them to success in life?
Well, I appreciate everything you're doing. I'm hoping that the audience out here appreciate having a congressman out to speak and talk about everything that's going on. Sir, it's been a pleasure as always. Please remember you have a friend, and keep me in mind. Anything I could ever do to return all the favors you've done for me. And if you ever need this voice or this microphone, it's yours to use at any time, so we get your message out. If there's anything you want to say to your people right now.
No, just thank you to you, David, for being a great voice, being a great friend, being a community, having such a servant's heart, and being a great voice with this hour with Dave. And I really appreciate you having me as a guest, and I look forward to doing this again at some point.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. God bless you. Say hi to the wife, and tell all the farmers that they have a friend here in the city.
Will do.
Take care.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless.
So long. Thank you, everyone, for being on An Hour with Dave. And you've had the pleasure of speaking to somebody and hearing somebody that's very special to me as a friend. And we'll see if we can have Congress G.T. Thompson one more time to tell us all the good things that are going on, because if he's behind it, I guarantee you it's good. Everybody be safe. God bless you. I love you all. Take care. Bye.
All right, David, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UCLA Media. This is David Torres, your host, and you're on An Hour with Dave.